I was new, trying to build a brand, and afraid that I would end up disappointed and embarrassed. Can you believe that? um, I was very, very nervous about it because it's like either you're going to do very well or you're going to fall flat on your face. And I remember even talking with some very close people in my circle and saying, maybe we won't even announce this. Maybe I'll just like secretly do an episode and then we'll put it out a little later and we'll just test it and see. And everybody's like, you're not going to do that. You just need to put this out and you just need to do it. And as as I prayed about it and talked to some key advisors in my life, I felt peace. And I decided to make the announcement about the premiere of the Jamelle Sanders show. That's what it was called back then before we changed it to the Jamelle Sanders podcast. So, I had prayed about it, I felt peace about it, and we were preparing the press release to go out and to tell people about the announcement of this podcast. And let me tell you, it sounded really, really good at that time. And in theory, it's like, yes, I'm going to do this. You give yourself that pep talk. And you're like, I'm going to do this. And ooh, and it's like the closer we get to that launch date, it was like, what in the world have you done? And how do I get out of this? How can we cancel this? How can we retract that statement? Because you all have got me to do this press release. I want to retract this statement. I want to tell people we're not doing it. We're going to do something else. I just wasn't feeling very good about it at the time. And sure, while I'm sure you're all excited to hear all of the history, I was so afraid and I tried to back out of it so many times. I really did because this may encourage somebody, especially if you're new to entrepreneurship or you're new, you have a dream or something in your heart that you want to do, and you're trying to figure out how this thing is going to come together for you. Maybe this will help you by me being so transparent with you. You have to understand Jamelle Sanders today is very different from Jamelle Sanders in 2011. First of all, the Jamelle Sanders of 2011, nobody knew. We were trying to build platforms, following. There was no following hardly, but a few friends and family and people that had started to kind of find out about what I was doing. So I didn't have, like today, I can do something, I can send something out to thousands of people in a moment. And, I've kind of built a following and brand at this point, but I didn't have any of that. And it's like, how my mind worked, and because I have a business background, I understand marketing, branding, all of that. It's like, okay, we're going to put this out, but nobody's going to know about it. Nobody knows who Jamelle Sanders is. So, how are we expecting there to be listeners and an audience and even a platform for what I'm trying to do? So, it was that I was wrestling so hard with that concept because it just didn't seem feasible or possible for me at that time. Um, Even the night before the premiere, I was nervous and trying to think of a possible way to get out of this. I had created my show notes and I had an outline of what I wanted to say, what I wanted to deliver, what the message was going to be, and I just could not sleep. I remember talking to somebody and just saying, I just really need to get out of this because I'm like, I'm going to look like a fool. I'm going to be embarrassed. No, but at that time, now I just record episodes. But back then, the platform that I was on, you had a live audience option when you did it. And the best shows, Robert Westerburn, everybody that was thriving in that media space, they had a good audience when they went live. And I'm like, nobody's going to be on. It's going to just be a joke. And I just didn't want to do it. And so I remember on April 6, 2011, going live and almost trembling. I had already told myself nobody was going to tune in, I was going to fail. However, when I went live, to my surprise, so many people were tuned in and excited to hear what I had to say. So it's like, the thing that I had been so consumed with for months and weeks, all of a sudden, that was not true at all. People were tuned in and they were so excited, and I was shocked. People that I didn't even think would be tuned in were tuned in. People that I didn't even think knew about that announcement were tuned in. And it just, I was so amazed. And I just think it was just so necessary for me to know that people were behind me in this idea, and that it wasn't just going to be a laughing stock as I had thought it would be. And with my voice shaking and my nerves trying to get the best of me, I talked to the audience. Now, I'm going to tell you, I am gifted as a communicator, I will say that. But my communication has evolved so much from back then. It's one thing talking to leaders and talking on a stage and talking to a room, and it's another thing doing a podcast and talking to an audience week after week and covering a wide array of subjects and topics and being authentic and not being boring and trying to connect with, there's so much to this that I did not know back then. But what I now realize, looking back in retrospect, is that all of this was helping me to be a better communicator. Because there are so many people that started podcasting and quit. They never made it. They didn't even get to 5 years, 10 years, yet alone 14 years of doing this. And my communication has improved so much. My ability to connect with people has improved so much. My ability to be authentic and vulnerable and transparent with an audience has grown so much. My ability to connect with people at a deep level has grown so much. So the great benefit of this, more than anything, is that it's helped me to be better. I'm better as a communicator. I'm better as a leader. I'm better as a thinker. I'm better in so many capacities because I have been willing to do this. I laid out my vision for the show, my intention for each episode, and I delved into an empowering message. It was nerve wracking, it was scary, it was uncomfortable, but it was something that needed to happen. And I remember when I ended that first episode, so many people reaching out to me saying, Jamelle, this is definitely your lane. This is something you should be doing. People saying there has been a void of this, and you are put here to meet this particular need. So many messages came in. I was just overwhelmed with people responding and telling me what they believed this platform was going to do and what it already represented for them with just that one episode being done. By the time it was over, everyone was glued to the show and excited about my next episode. I ended that episode and I let out a sigh of relief. And then the next week came and I decided to do it again because, I had already told some people, like, if this goes bad, we're going to do this first episode. We're going to be done with it, and we can erase that one if we need to, and they'll never know that this was even out. We can remove the press releases, all of that can go away. And I made it through, and I came back for another week ready to do it again. Still nervous, still uncomfortable because this was new for me. I know business, I know leadership, I know how to impact people's lives, but like I said, this was a totally different space for me. And I had to get comfortable in that space. And it really forced me out of my comfort zone in a way that I needed to be forced out of my comfort zone. So I'm glad that it happened because it forced me to grow in a way that I really needed to grow. Um, Quickly, I started to hear from people all over the globe that were tuning in and listening to my podcast. This is one of the things that amazed me the most because honestly, I expected friends and a few family members to tune in. I never expected it to have a global reach because, like I said, I was so new. I was building a brand and a business, and I was in the very early stages of it back then. And I was just grateful to have somebody listening. I wasn't expecting it to have global reach, and then I started